myself, Dr. Swadeep Srivastav, and I am the founder of Heal, and we are here to present to you the 15th episode of Heal Thy Samvad. We also call it Healthy Samvad, but and this is the 15th episode we have dedicated to the vaccination hesitancy issue. The COVID vaccination, everybody is aware of that it has started full-fledged in our country, and our country is leading globally, showing the way to the world how a successful vaccination program should be rolled out. And but still, what we saw about a month back when the COVID vaccination started, that there is still a lot of hesitancy amongst the healthcare workers, amongst the general people at large. There are a lot of misconceptions. There are a lot of lack of awareness, the lack of the right kind of knowledge and information. So we thought of putting up this program, India for Vaccination e-Summit, and also create a wall for torch bearers who have been vaccinated. So we were able to connect to a few hospitals and hundreds of doctors. And what you'll see in the program going forward in the second session and post that, we have a lot of doctors, frontline workers, healthcare workers coming forward, sharing their experiences. What this program we started in the first week of April, when there was a shutdown announced due to COVID-19 in India in the end of March. We started with a movement called COVID Fighters Public Health Safety Movement. We have reached almost completed 11 months of that, about more than 250 days of continuously educating, informing the public at large, involving the stakeholders, giving them a platform, all the key opinion leaders, all the experts for various fields. We have got about more than 150 experts in about 25 webinars, about 10 e-summits we have done on various issues.
Doctor is on the other side of the table, who's always trying to make the best effort to give the benefit of medicine to their patients. Many times patients find it difficult to afford expensive medicines. We try and make sure that there are funding options made available to as many patients as possible. That's basically our job. But having said that, as healthcare workers, we are equally exposed because we move into hospitals, we move into doctors' clinics. And but I think never ever it occurred to whether it is me or to my team members that we should ever be afraid of getting into the field, of getting into meeting with physicians, because we truly believe that being out there in the field is the only way to ensure that the patients don't suffer. Yeah. And to that point, coming to your question specifically, it is very interesting. I was reading this publication from Northeast Georgia Health System from the US. They come up with a very novel comparison of the COVID vaccine with the seatbelt. I think all of us, if we drive our car, we wear our seatbelt. So they come up with a very nice analogy that COVID vaccine is similar to a seatbelt. And for people who have read it, I'm sure you understand the analogy or the background to the analogy. But nevertheless, in the interest of more members of the audience getting to know the analogy, I'd like to possibly read out a few questions as to how this analogy comes in. So all of us wear seatbelts. Seatbelts are mandatory when we drive a car. But does seatbelt prevent an accident or a danger? The answer is no. Seatbelt does not. But does seatbelt reduce the impact of the accident? The answer is yes. And I think that analogy is very similar or very much applicable to the COVID vaccine. That would COVID vaccine prevent an infection? The answer is no. But does COVID vaccine has the potential to reduce the severity of the COVID infection, if any? The answer is yes. So I think that's where the similarity comes between a seatbelt and a COVID vaccine. Now, does it mean that after wearing a seatbelt, one can drive the car recklessly? The answer is no. So therefore, the analogy here is, after taking the vaccine, does it mean you can get rid of the mask and not really pay heed to personal hygiene or sanitization, as we call, or even social distancing? The SMS, as we typically call, so sanitization, mask, and social distancing. The answer is no. Even after you wear seatbelt, you are required to follow traffic rules. So similarly, the current clinical guideline says that even after wearing, or rather taking the vaccine, we need to make sure that we take proper precaution. Wearing of the mask is still going to be mandatory after both the shots of the vaccines are taken. Social distancing is still going to be mandatory, and sanitization is still going to be mandatory, because we don't know. While a lot of people, after taking the vaccine, it is very heartening to see a lot of our colleagues, doctors, who were in the video that played just before the session say that they've taken the shots, they're absolutely fine, doing great, which is very, very glad to see those messages. And having said that, they continue to use the mask, because we don't know if a person who's vaccinated may continue to remain marginally asymptomatic, and whether that person transmits the infection to another person that has not been studied. But it's hence better to be safe than sorry. Hence we continue to wear the mask. Now, does it mean wearing a seatbelt won't injure others? The answer is no. Again, after wearing a vaccine, as I told you, there is a possibility that there could be transmission of infection in the community if the person were not to wear the mask and follow sanitization oneself. Hence, that becomes critical. And, so basically, another important thing is, will you not have small injuries if you were to get into an accident after wearing a seatbelt? Yes, the seatbelt could wear a mark across the neck or the chest. Similarly, after taking the vaccine, there could be few side effects that one may experience. But again, this has been far and few, even amongst Indian doctors and Indian healthcare workers who have taken it. So at the end of the day, should you wear a seatbelt? The answer is yes. So therefore, the answer to that question, should you take the vaccine? The answer is absolutely yes. So I'm confident that, whichever the vaccine that's available, personally, I feel that, India has been a great contributor to vaccines supply across the globe. We make almost 80% of most of the commonly used vaccines. We have a great precedence of having eradicated, smallpox. Now with a great polio vaccination drive, almost taking the polio out of the country, and making leaps with BCG vaccination, which also seems to be conferring a great level of immunity against common respiratory disorders. I think India is positioned very strongly in leading the world production in COVID vaccination. So we should be proud about it, we should be confident about it, and we should actually help promote Indian vaccines, both within India and outside the country. That's the way I look at it, Ms. Soni.
And why hesitancy, vaccine hesitancy, there are misconceptions. Of course, there has been in history, vaccination will cause autism, vaccination will cause infertility. Well, there has really been no proof for any of these kinds of things. But in spite of that, there will always be individuals who don't need a vaccine. Let's fine, leave them alone. But bulk of the population must undergo vaccination. That is very, very important. And we have a very good opportunity in the sense the virus is coming down very rapidly. That means you have a window where you can get vaccinated and protect yourself. There is no guarantee that the virus will not come back. The virus may come back, and you will never know whether it will be more virulent or less virulent. Normally, mutations are supposed to lead to less virulence, but you never know. For example, even now people are debating whether the UK strain or South African strain is more virulent. We still don't have these answers. These are all debates. More and more debates are going on. But actual answers still are there, out there. We don't know. Therefore, maybe it will visit us every year like a flu. And you need a flu vaccine. Flu, I will close by saying, what is a flu vaccine? You have basal 2 strains. And every year you have to add a new strain. Flu is one virus where it can change its character every year, and the old vaccine may not work. So they add a new strain to that becomes a flu vaccine. Will COVID become like that? We have no answer. May I only want to close by saying that ultimately, perhaps even pregnant women may have to be vaccinated. Children have to be vaccinated. I do believe, children, they say they are not affected, but they carry the virus. They are asymptomatic, and they are carriers, and they need to be vaccinated. But trials have to be done. These are categories where you have to be extraordinarily careful. But I have not seen a debate where pregnant mothers are being discussed. What happens to the fetus if the mother is infected? See, these are all questions. Therefore, for heaven's sake, there should be no vaccine hesitancy, in my opinion. And I once again want to compliment the HEAL Foundation for taking this cause in a major way. And I am sure all the scientists who mean well are all with you. Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
We know that natural COVID infection evoke an immune response. Hence, as per the global scientific evidence, now this virus is 1 year old and we have sufficient evidence. We cannot say that it's a new virus, we don't have any evidence. Now we have sufficient evidence. Actually, we used to say that now there is a pandemic of publication. I have not seen this type of publication like COVID-19 publication, more than lakhs of publication all over the world. Almost all reputed journals, they have published their special issues, including Indian Public Health Association. So we have also published many special issues on this COVID-19 disease. So whatever data we have as per the global scientific evidence available now, the individuals who have recovered from the documented infection need not to be included in the priority list. So I can say vaccine is a very precious item. Let's use it judiciously. There is no need to vaccinate people who had documented COVID-19 infection. And we have sufficient evidence. Like 1 month, almost it's 1 month ago, there was a very good publication from this New England Journal of Medicine. It's a very high impact journal where they followed up almost 12,000 healthcare providers for 31 weeks. And out of these 12,000, 1,177, they were IgG positive in the initial phase. They followed up every 15 days, they tested with RT-PCR, and out of these 1,177, only 2 developed RT-PCR positivity. None developed any breakthrough infection like any disease or illness.
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. So I am a scientist and I believe in scientific evidences. I do not believe in the speculation like this will happen, a very large second wave will occur. All the Sero survey are suggesting that our population, almost 25% population, and in major city like Delhi, 50% population, they are already infected. So if 50% population and in children, almost 60% children are infected. So if 60% children are infected, where we'll have the very high second wave, there will be some fluctuation, no doubt. There are still some population, but I cannot believe in it. If I believe in the data, Indian data, then I can say no. We are not going to have very large second wave or third wave or fourth wave.
Chinese general, because we are fighting a war against pandemic, to use the war strategies. Sun Tzu said that those who are not thoroughly aware of the disadvantages in the use of arms cannot be thoroughly aware of the advantages in the use of arms. So like all strong weapons, if you use it properly, then you get the maximum. So I will just say with the same strategy, how much to get the best, and the general also sees the terrain, the people, the locality. The same strategy does not work in the different terrains. So we have what is the terrain in our country, because we have to use the vaccine in India, whether we use it like the Western are using it, or we can modify, or we can afford to modify. These are the questions we have to ask, whether we can afford to modify. So we have a number of advantages on terrain which would help us plan our strategy with a very efficiently. That is efficient not only in the impact, as Professor Padmanabhan said, the efficacy will come to know when it goes to the population. So not only that is efficiency is also whether as a poor country, how much cost benefit, how much we have got other competing public health issues. So firstly, we are, now as far as COVID is concerned, we have a higher percentage of young population compared to the West, which is much less susceptible to it. So that is one advantage. Probably that's why the Asian countries, even our neighbors, having less incidence and mortality from COVID. Secondly, the proportion of people, the other advantage is the body mass index, or higher overweight population is just 20% and the Western population are 3 times. And we have got studies now to show that obese people are more prone to. So we have an advantage. These are 2 major advantages. And thirdly, it has been postulated that we have got cross-infection with other coronaviruses, and there have been studies to show that even people who have not had a COVID infection, they have got T cells which are active to the novel coronaviruses, and that this infection may last, the protection may last up to 70 years. So all these possibilities may explain why not only in India, but our neighbors like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and other countries are also having low incidence. So, given this situation, we are in an advantageous position to conserve our artillery and use it judiciously. How we can do that? And also, this is also borne out that present plummeting trends of COVID-19 in our country, we can afford to wait and watch rather than go for mass indiscriminate vaccination, because we have a robust monitoring and surveillance system. In case of any regional outbreak, vaccination can be elected in these regions like surgical strikes. We get within 24 hours, we come to know that whether there are deaths more or that area, that region, instead of a regional physical containment, we can have a containment by vaccination. So we can preserve artillery and use it judiciously. This can be one strategy.
The whole thing is that we need to see the whole system in a more pragmatic view. And the life has to be very simple. In Indian ideology, we just can't mix up so many things. We know who's the bigger evil. Having a COVID and seeing through people fanatically running for beds in the month of October and November, I was always more than happy to take a shot and never land up in ICU. So as a frontline worker, it made my strength, it gave me a strength, and it made my a resolute plan that the moment the vaccine is going to be there, and I'm going to be the one who's going to be taking the vaccine first, because you have seen the whole cycle for past 9 months, how people have struggled, how the lungs could become fibrotic. So those people who are questioning or they're thinking about adverse side effects, I mean, no vaccine in this world comes without a side effect. No, not even paracetamol comes without a side effect. So who will develop and who will not develop, that's a science which we need to all dwell in, and the data has to be very clear. So Covishield has done a remarkable job on 24,000 people, Pfizer has done, and there will be, so not coming for that there will be zero side effects. So it will always be there, but who's the bigger devil? We need to understand that. And seeing the nitty-gritty. So people have not seen the ICU system. They're not handled at midnight. People not having. There was a scrambling for beds. There was no beds in the month of October and November post Diwali, and people were on the street, probably next to dying and asking for oxygen to be there in their ward. So I've gone and seen through those times, and that actually tells me that any person who thinks that they're not going to take vaccine, they're on a wrong foot. They should know and see the patients who have suffered pretty badly after suffering from COVID. So it's 0.1% or 2%, that doesn't make a difference. You never know, you might be a diabetic and a hypertensive, and you might just land up in giving and getting into ICU with a fibrotic lung, like the lungs are almost equal to that. I was tempted to take the vaccine on the first day, and I did that. There were side effects. I would not say there were no side effects. There was fever, and that could be very much controlled by paracetamol tablets. So that can happen. You will do well. But the ideology is plain and simple. You just can't get away from the vaccine. Like a diphtheria, you take a vaccine, tetanus toxoid, and those times you were a child, so you never knew. You were the children. Mother, if you ask your mother or your father how they used to hold you whole night after the vaccination, they will tell you the stories that for 24 hours, one of them has to take the leave because you need to be carried around the whole house because you were crying of pain or fever. So if you think that any vaccine comes without any side effects, you're wrong. So please go ahead, and people who are listening to this, I will only tell them, keep it simple. Life is simple. Please take the COVID shot and get on to your work, because India needs to run. Economy has to run, and we all need to open up and go to the back to normal, which was March 2020.
I've received the vaccine shot, and the setup which is the government has taken up is really very good. After the vaccination, they keep you under observation for half an hour, and they see if there's any acute side effects or anything on that. So I think to the layperson, I would say that there is no requirement for being hesitant or anything about taking the vaccine. Yes, there are some normal vaccination side effects which are there, like fever, little bit of body ache, but as such, nothing major come on. I have seen a couple of my friends even not taking vaccine, but since maximum of them have taken the vaccine, only very few of them had fever and myalgia, that is aching of the muscle. But beyond that, there were people who had no symptoms at all after taking the vaccine. And I think the lay person should be very comfortable taking the vaccine. And this kind of vaccination drive, as the government of India has started, is really good. And there is a follow-up also later on, where they really ask you, like, have you suffered any symptoms, or did you have any problem post-vaccination, and which is monitored directly by the government of India. So that way, I think it's a really safe way to take a vaccine. Normally, we vaccinate our children left and right, and we don't even bother. We give them a paracetamol syrup and we are done with it. But with this vaccination, the government has really gone ahead and taken the steps where any kind of adverse side effects are looked into.
Yes, it does happen, and people said that we would like to get it done because people were scared. And they did approach us. In fact, like Dr. Rahul was speaking, when there were no beds, people did approach me and a few of my colleagues to get the beds, and now it's for the vaccination. And what we tell to them is, it's entirely a structured program the government has run. They've developed the vaccine, and now they know who needs to be get vaccinated first. So it's all right, and it's perfectly fine to wait for the turn. And I think people are buying that. And like you asked about people's apprehension. So there is just one small answer to that when you drive down from Delhi to Chandigarh or from one place to another, you eat at a dhaba. Do you know the dal fry you are eating is made on Six Sigma process? Or do you think the next juice bottle or the bottle of scotch you pick? I mean, what kind of so, and this is a vaccine which has been developed by after so much of research, so many tests, series of tests. It's an entire scientific process. So if you trust science, one should never have apprehension, and it's perfectly fine to wait for our turn. So that is my 2 cents to it.
Yes, after the vaccine, I was asymptomatic for the first 8 hours, and then I got symptoms like fever, which could be easily tackled with paracetamol tablet. I had to take paracetamol 4 times, and I did not take any off from my office. I was attending my emergency.
Chavi, you're telling us that even after taking the vaccine and getting the slight fever that you said that you got, you still continued with your duties. That did not stop you from going to work at all.
Yes, I did my duties. I attended all the emergencies. I did surgeries. So I was quite fine. I did not have any major symptoms, thankfully.
I did have some side effects. So immediately post the vaccine, I had a headache and slight dizziness. And after a couple of hours, I had a little fever, but then nothing that could not be resolved with the paracetamol. So within a day or two, everything was fine, and I was back to work. So, and I think none of the side effects were such that, you cannot resolve them very easily. And these side effects can happen with any vaccine.
Dr. Monica, when you were talking to me earlier, you had mentioned that after the vaccination, you looked at your blood sample under the microscope.
No, not under the microscope, but I did test for antibodies. I was like, we wanted to see what was happening. So while we were at the center, we did get it tested. So the first time round, after a week, we didn't get any antibodies. But I've just tested it 3-4 days back, and we have antibodies have come positive. So we're very thrilled about that whole thing now.
Did you have any side effects?
No side effects at all. Absolutely. Even at my, at our hospital, there's nobody who had any problems. I mean, maybe little fevers, 1 or 2 people had, but other than that, everything was pretty safe. And I think the government has done a fabulous job in the sense, they're actually calling up people to ask, to come and get the vaccine. Even people who have not got the vaccine out of fear, they're still, and their turn has finished, they're still calling them to come and get the jab done. So I think they're, really doing a fabulous job.
First of all, just after taking the vaccination, one should not leave the station immediately. He should stay there for a prescribed time, that is around 30 minutes, so that any acute reaction can be monitored and could be handled with. And even after vaccination, once a person gets vaccinated, he should, if he's gets any symptom and he's not comfortable with that, he should not be shy to visit a doctor, and he should not restrain himself from going to doctor for help. Otherwise, it's very rare that any major symptoms come after vaccination. And as far as other things are concerned, even after getting vaccination, you have to take proper precautions like wearing masks and taking proper care of sanitization. And that will be very helpful in getting control over the COVID.
Thank you for your question. My take on the second wave, right now India have suppressed the COVID like anything, and we are hardly getting any cases, like 10,000 cases per day in a population of 130-40 crores, which is actually nothing. But if we analyze the global data, we see that after 7 to 8 months, most of the countries, like when you talk about Europe, when you talk about US, they see a second wave. So India has achieved the first wave on September. So if we add like 7 months to that, so we might have a second wave in say April and May. But we are in a very fortunate position because that time when it was happening in the US or the Europe, they did not have any vaccine to prevent a second wave. But in India as of now, because we have a vaccine available to us, and the second wave is probably coming in the next, if it is coming, then it might be coming. So we have a good enough time to vaccinate most of the people. And if we are able to do that the government is planning also. So if we are able to, vaccinate even if not like the whole population, that is, I don't think it's possible. But even if we are able to vaccinate 30 to 40 crore of our people, that is the government's plan, then personally I feel that we can actually avoid a second wave in India.
Thank you very much, my public health community. The award is dedicated to all of you, individually and collectively. I feel blessed to do this in this lifetime to serve the society, because my foundations were laid very early in my childhood. My parents told me right at the childhood, when I was a child, that if you do something for yourself, you are as good as dead. If you serve the society, then you make the worth living. I carried that thing very faithfully in my life, and I serve the society to the best of my ability and to the best of resources I could have. So it's a blessing. I consider it as a blessing. So thank you so much, all of you, individually and collectively, for this words of appreciation. I dedicate my award to the public health community at large, globally. I just want to share, because I heard the debate on vaccination very carefully. The time frame in public health programs is decades or centuries. I just want to go back to the history. It was in 1796, Edward Jenner developed smallpox vaccination. Smallpox was eradicated from the world in 1977. So it took almost 191 years to show the results. So time frame is very different. It goes to decades and centuries, So I want to again thank the government of India, my colleagues for all their best wishes, and I'll continue to strive. I'm going to live for more than 100 years, so I got about 30 more years to work, and I will make sure that we're able to eliminate all such diseases like pandemic COVID-19. Thank you so much once again.